Warning, this video may contain content that may not be suitable for children or anyone else that is easily offended. Strong language, graphic content, nudity, bad jokes, and a possible idiot, aka myself, may be featured in the following clip. Viewer discretion is advised, and is not responsible for any damages that you receive watching this video. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Zems, and welcome to What I Saw in My Room Still Haunts Me. This video is by Mrballen, so make sure you swoop down to that description box, hit the link, head over, and go subscribe to my boy, and watch the video in its entirety while me pausing and stopping through the whole thing. This video is probably going to give us a backstory on who Mrballen is, and maybe even give us some detail on why he became a horror storyteller on his channel. Maybe this is why he got interested in telling horror stories, because he experienced it himself. But you guys haven't already, be sure you enter that giveaway, because it's almost over. You got like 2 days left, maybe even 1 day. Make sure you guys are paying attention if you are signed up. Be sure you are there when the winner is drawn. I will be announcing it on Monday, even though it's my off day. I'm probably gonna make a quick video and say who the winner is. If you guys are entered, make sure you're there to claim it, because if not, then someone else has a chance of winning it. This video was recommended by Slick BMX. Yo, thank you, Slick BMX, so much for that. I really, really appreciate it, man. If you guys have any more recommendations, please let me know down in the comment section.
Where is it? I heard the door open. I heard the bells, I heard the pot, I heard the footsteps. I saw the door open, I see the thing walk in, I watched it walk down the aisle, I watched it bend over. It's in the room.
It bent over.
Where is it? And this is night 1. There's 2 more nights of this, and it gets worse.
Yo, you got a Rammstein Germany shirt. Boy, I was stationed in Germany at one point.
I was an avid snowboarder. Started from the
I
time
hate
I was
snowboarding.
like 12 years old.
It hurts.
I used to always go snowboarding with the same 2 guys, my 2 very close friends, Wolf and Nick. Every winter, me, Nick, and Wolf would go up to Nick's family's cabin that was up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire.
It sounds dangerous.
And it was great. Every time we went up to this cabin in New Hampshire, it would be me, Wolf, Nick, and then Nick's mom and dad.
Which is Zems.
Unexpectedly, leading into my 16-year-old winter, Nick's father passed away. We were actually planning on going on a trip to the mountains.
Rest in peace, Nick's father.
And I remember speaking to Wolf and being like, I don't know if it's even appropriate to ask about this trip, because we knew that Nick was very close to his father, and not to mention, like, every time we went on this particular, trip up to the mountains, Nick's dad was always with us, and it just seemed like, how can we possibly now go on this snowboarding trip? Not only is it a low priority item, but just the dynamic is all different now. Nick called us and was like, hey, so we are still going to do the snowboarding trip.
Dang.
The cabin in New Hampshire.
I would have called it off.
So, Wolf and I, we spoke and we're like, let's just go with it. I mean, maybe it's like, maybe they want to do something that maybe is a fond memory of their father, their husband. And so we agreed to go. So he passes away maybe a few months before we end up going up to the mountains. And so the grief was still definitely there, but also just, again, that the dynamic was it was like the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, you had to address it.
We drove in the same car. Me, Wolf, Nick, and then Nick's mom was driving. It was so apparent that Nick's dad was missing, because he was always in the car with us when we drove up. Anyhow, so we make the trip up to New Hampshire, and we're planning to be up there for 3 days. So the house itself wasn't really a cabin, it was a house, it was a small house. It was on a mountain, and if you think about the way a mountain works, it's a slope, and so in order to have a house level on a mountain, a portion of it needs to be on stilts, right? The portion that's kind of hanging off. And then the other part of the house is kind of like embedded in the mountain itself. And
that's a no for me. I'm not. Hell no. I'm sorry. It might be a nice view and stuff, but I've seen too many avalanche movies and mudslides and all this stuff. I could not be on top of a mountain. There's like being close to a mountain, and there's being on the mountain. I could not be on the top of the mountain like that, man. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sleep at night. You're just bound to find some kind of trouble, whether it's nature or something else.
When you drive up to the house, there's a wraparound porch that goes around the house. The majority of it is on the stilted section of the house, right? So if you're on the wraparound porch, your footsteps are going to echo. Like, you can hear those footsteps
through the mountain
above the
Jesus.
Mountain. When you step into the house, you open a door. It actually opens inwardly. There were sleigh bells that were on the door, on the inside.
Santa?
So anytime you open the door, you hear those sleigh bells ringing. And as soon as you step foot into the house, if you took one step into the house, right? So you step on the wraparound porch, you open the door, sleigh bells ring. When you step into the house, Your right foot would be in the kitchen. You'd be standing on
Oh, that quick.
room. And your left foot would be on shag carpet, which is like the dining room. And
It's kind of weird.
That's the way the house is laid out. As soon as you walk in, kitchen on your right, dining room on your left. And if you keep walking, you're going to enter into this living room. And if you turned around in the living room and looked up, you would see a lofted second floor.
Okay, I can see it.
If you walk
I can
into
picture
the house, again, your right foot's in the kitchen, your left foot's in the dining room. Walked as if you were going into that living space, but stopped about halfway across the house. You could look to your right, and there'd be one hallway. There's only one hallway. It's a small house. And this hallway is bringing you, call it, into the mountain. If you think about, again, the layout of the house, you have a portion of the house that's
into the mountain,
and a portion of the house that's on stilts. Well, this hallway leads into the section of the house that's in the mountain. And if you go down this hallway and it turns left, it's a short little hallway, it brings you to one room. And that room is where me, Nick, and Wolf would stay every time we went.
I couldn't be in that room. Put me to the room closest to outside of the mountain. I do not want to be inside of it. I feel like that just leaves for animals and everything else to try to freaking find their way inside the house. Inside the mountain. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
Snowboarding at this mountain. That room, if you go into it, it's a corner-fed room. You open the door, and immediately to your right is a bunk bed. I would always sleep on the bottom bunk, and Wolf would sleep on the top bunk. Our feet would be closest to the door.
I always had a fear of falling off the top bunk.
This is not a big room. There was like a queen-size bed. It was a slightly larger bed that sat basically in all of the free space that was left over in the room. It was sitting right in the middle of the room, and that's where Nick would sleep. So basically the room was completely packed with 3 places to sleep and really not much else.
Yeah.
There was a very small space between the queen-size bed and the bunk bed, so you could walk between those two, but that was about it. So that layout's very important, and you'll see why. We snowboard for the day, we come back to the cabin.
Don't forget the layout, y'all.
And me, Nick, and Wolf decide we're gonna crash super early and get up early and have a full day of riding ahead of us, because we're avid snowboarders. So we go to our room.
I'm gonna see if I can find my snowboarding video and try to put it inside this video.
Stand up all the way up, Weeder.
Yeah! Oh, I know that fucking
But yeah, I would never go snowboarding again. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but snow or the ice was so hard, man. It was like you was skating on concrete, man. It was horrible. It was fun, but I was horrible. Make sure you wear your equipment gear too. Don't be like those people that have been snowboarding a lot and some of them don't wear headgear and stuff like that. They was like, don't wear headgear, don't wear headgear, you don't need it. Shit. I'm glad I made it off that mountain. I probably did have a concussion and didn't go to the doctor or something. It was like, stand up, we need to stand up. Stood up, I think I picked up a good 15 miles per hour, and I just went from there. I was like this, I stood up, I was like, I'm going. Tried to stop. My snowboard was like, nah, G, I like your cut, G. I fell back, wow, hit my head so hard on the ice. I hit the ground so hard that my G-Shock flew off. And anybody that wears G-Shock knows that G-Shocks just don't break like that. On impact, when I hit the ground, it popped my G-Shock. Both of the straps that hold the G-Shock together came off, and the little disc thing that was in the middle went flying off too. So I had a broken G-Shock. So I hit that ground pretty hard in the back of my head. I'm sitting in the back of the car eating chicken McNugget. I don't got that part in the video, but I was sitting in the back of the vehicle still eating chicken nuggets because I was dizzy. I was like, man, boy.
It's kind of, you go down that hallway to get to the room I just described. We planned on going to bed early, but we were excited, and so we stayed up gaming for a bit. And then maybe around like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, Nick, who again is in the queen size bed, and Wolf is in the top bunk, they ultimately fall asleep. I was still awake, and what struck me, and it always struck me whenever I slept in this room, is when you turn off all the electronics and you're just laying in bed in this house, in particular this room, it is pitch black.
Nope.
No windows. You're in the segment of the house.
Nope.
In the mountain. It is truly pitch black.
Night light, please.
Not to mention the house itself. There weren't really any neighbors nearby because this house, Nick's family had purchased it a while ago when this used to be an active ski resort, the mountain itself that it was on. But it wasn't anymore, and most people that were living there had left and sold their property. But a few people had decided to stay, and so Nick's family was one of them. So they had this cabin on an abandoned ski resort.
And I think it's abandoned for a reason. It's called the Abominable Clap Man. They about to go in there and clap all of them right now.
There was virtually no street lights, there's virtually no neighbors, and so at night, when you're laying in this room, like I was this night, you're really struck by just how dark and quiet it is. Basically no white noise, I mean silence and pitch black. And so I'm laying there, and one other...
Like Wesley Snipes Pitch Black or Michael Blackson Pitch Black? Let us know down in the comment section which one you think. I think it's Wesley Snipes, but now then again, maybe it's a mixture of both.
Detail that needs to be brought up before we get into what actually happens. So Nick had two much older brothers. They were in their 30s, and we're 16 years old. And we were expecting one of them, we didn't know which, to swing by the house at some point over the next few days. That's what Nick's mom had said. Nick had kind of reiterated it. And I think that Wolf and I understood that, you know, now that Nick's father was gone, that they were just kind of trying to find a way to fill the void that was left.
I don't think you can fill that void.
And so we were expecting over the course of that weekend for someone, one of the two brothers, to come to this house and stay with us for a night or whatever it was. I had never met either of these two brothers. I knew they existed, but I had never met them before. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I know that probably one of them is going to show up at some point, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, whenever it is.
But are they?
Man, it's giving me goosebumps just thinking about this. So that night, as I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about how dark and quiet it is. I remember the only light in the room was the digital clock, the little red digital clock, and it was like a beacon in the light. And that doesn't emit much light, but when it's pure darkness, it does.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about because I used to be scared to sleep in the living room in my old house in Los Angeles, California, because it was pitch black inside the living room and it was super quiet, and the only thing you can hear is kind of like the refrigerator. And then you could see the red button on the VCR. It just creeped me out because that's the only thing you can see in that whole dark room. And just the thought of something maybe walking by and like cutting off that red light scared the dookie out of me.
And I just could not fall asleep. I remember
I feel it, man.
I got to a place where I started counting how many hours of sleep I might get if I fell asleep right then and there, which is never a good sign. That means you're not close to sleeping. If you're like, okay, if I fell asleep now, I'll get 3 hours and 22 minutes of sleep, right? Like that's where I was at mentally. At some point, I think it was around 3 in the morning,
he's reminiscent.
Clock and thinking, wow, it's gotten so late and I'm still awake. I hear footsteps on the wraparound porch. In a situation where, you know, as I'm telling it, you're going to think, how did you not raise, you know, a red flag immediately? In real time,
911, what's your emergency?
Your brain goes to great measures to convince you that everything is okay. It really takes an enormous amount of anomalies to stack up for your brain to say something's wrong. And so that's what happened in this first night. I hear footsteps on the wraparound porch, and I immediately assume, even though we're talking, it's like 3 in the morning. I just assume that it's got to be one of Nick's brothers arriving to be a part of this weekend getaway.
Possibly.
So
okay.
I really actually didn't think anything of it. I actually just thought, well, you know, when he comes in the house, if he happens to come in here to check on us, I'll just pretend to be asleep in case, you know, he were to see that I was awake. I don't want to have a conversation.
I'm getting chills.
Number one, it's 3 in the morning. Number two, I don't know the guy. I'm just going to pretend to be asleep. So that's all I'm thinking about. Not worried, not scared, not anything. It's on the wraparound porch.
Mr. Ballen gonna be sleeping, and the dude gonna come up in the room. He's gonna be like, "What are you doing, step bro?" What are you doing, step ghost? Oh damn! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, let's go.
The door opens, and I can hear the sleigh bells that are on the door itself. I can hear those chime as the door opens. Again, no part of me is concerned about this. I'm thinking it's a little bit weird that they're arriving at 3 in the morning.
Right.
But we
no
knew
calls,
that
nothing, knocks.
his brothers had these weird work schedules where they might show up in the middle of the night. So it was just, it was whatever it was. Sleigh bells ring, and then I hear what sounds like a pot, like a kitchen pot, fall and hit the linoleum floor in the kitchen.
Nobody else wakes up?
I remember just the sound stood out to me. It just seemed like this person's kind of making a bit of a commotion in the middle of the night here. And the door didn't shut. And I noticed that. I figured they were maybe bringing their stuff in.
I'm about to boo-boo on myself.
Some stuff. And they're leaving the door open. Oh, this is... Just thinking about this, it's really making me feel uncomfortable. So I hear the footsteps in the wraparound.
Yo, he's scaring me, low-key.
I can hear the sleigh bells, a pot falls, and it hits the linoleum floor. The footsteps that I could hear on the wraparound porch, because it's on stilts, right? Like the porch is hovering over the ground. You can hear those footsteps. Well, when these footsteps continued into the house, where you're on a concrete slab and there should be no sound, like I shouldn't hear echoing footsteps, it sounded like it was on the wraparound porch still, but the noise was getting closer to me. So it was like the footsteps sounded totally natural out on the wraparound porch, but once they were in the house, it didn't really make any sense that I could hear them as if the footsteps were standing on something that was suspended off the ground.
Nobody else woke up?
You're in the house on a concrete.
I woke up when that pot dropped.
So I hear these footsteps.
Could have opened a crock pot.
The door hasn't shut. The front door is wide open. We're in the middle of winter here. We're in the middle of nowhere too. And I'm thinking about that, but I'm still thinking it's got to be Nick's brother, one of Nick's brothers. The footsteps continue through the house, and they stop about halfway through the house. If you open that door and walk halfway through the house. And then the footsteps began to walk down the hallway towards our room.
Nah, bro, where my gun at?
They get right outside the door, which is shut. The door to our room is shut.
Lock it. Lock the door.
And I'm sitting there. Again, my feet are closest to the door. It's pitch black.
Oh my God, they're gonna grab his toe.
You know, digital clock. And I'm thinking, why didn't they shut the front door? Of all the weird things that have happened, the fact that I'm hearing footsteps as if they're on the wraparound porch, but they're getting louder and moving through the house, the thing that really just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up was, why didn't they shut the front door?
This has been a perfect time, like, Nick, Wolf, bro, you awake? You sleep? Yo, I used to do that all the time when I was scared. I used to sleep at my friend's house. I think I told you guys a story a while back about how my friend's house was like kind of creepy. When it used to be dark at night, it's get quiet, I was like, yo, you sleep? He'd be like, nah. I'd be like, okay. Hey, I've been scary about ghosts and stuff my whole life, man. I cannot make this up.
It just seems like such a bad idea. There's animals out there. There's a host of things out there.
Facts.
Like, why aren't you shut? And not to mention, it's freezing outside. There's a space between the bunk bed, the bottom bunk that I'm on, and the top bunk. There's a space that I can see clear as day. Whoever walks in the room, I'm gonna see them when they walk past the foot of the bed. But because of the top bunk, my view is actually obscured.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be able to make out someone's face, for example.
Oh my God, I'm getting scared, man.
The middle section. The door opens, and this shadow figure walks into the room, which, by the way, I'm in a pitch black room, and I clearly make out a black silhouette. This thing walks into the room, and it's obscured, so I wouldn't have been able to see its head or upper body anyways.
Wesley Snipes, 100%.
Are so high that I can't even really see those. Those are at the level that I would expect someone's upper body or head
a Yeti?
At. Meaning, this figure that's walked in, its legs are extremely long.
Yeti.
And so if it was proportionally the size of a human, you're talking about maybe a 10-foot tall person, but we're in a space that is not a 10-foot high ceiling. And so this thing walks in, and as soon as I see it, and I make out that black silhouette, even though it's pitch black in the room, I clearly see the silhouette that is unnaturally tall, combined with all the things that I've just thought about, mainly the door's still open. They've made kind of a commotion. I can hear these weird footsteps. I instantly was frozen with terror. Frozen. Petrified.
I've heard of people say that before, that was frozen with terror. I have never been that scared, and I don't think I ever would like to be, but just to be sitting there looking at something and you don't have any kind of reaction at all, you're just stuck there, you're frozen in fear. That's kind of like people be like, oh, I'm speechless. I've never been speechless either, so they some heavy sleepers, I'm telling you, because I woke up after that pot drop, I'm telling you. No cap, son.
Well, one, I'm like, it's not Nick's. And even if we're not talking about paranormal,
It might be Shaq.
It's such a bad situation. Even if that's just some dude who's come into the house, that's a really bad situation. So no matter what, this is a really bad situation, but what I'm looking at doesn't make sense. It's an unnaturally tall person. They've left the door open, and I hear their footsteps all over the house, and it walks in past the foot of the bed. And I'm laying there, and I can't see higher than its weight because it's obscured by the top bunk. And this thing makes this like facing movement, like a military facing movement, and begins to walk down the aisle between the queen size bed in the middle of the room and the bunk bed where I am. and it's walking down right next to me, and I'm literally sitting there, unable to move.
He's about to kiss
And
him
I'm
on the cheek.
thinking, I can't do anything. I'm truly frozen with terror. And all I remember thinking is, whatever happens, just don't bend down and look at me. That will ruin my life. If this thing so much as looks at me,
He said, you can chill in here, bro, but do not make eye contact with me because it's going to ruin my life. And 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty sure it's going to look down at him. I think these creatures have a sense of when someone's awake. I feel like that's why he went down there. He's about to look this man dead in his eyes, I bet.
that's it, I'm done. So walks down the aisle, it's right next to me. I'm literally frozen. And it does another quick movement,
Yep.
but it's facing away from me.
It's going to be like, I was waiting at you at the door.
Facing towards Nick in the center of the room. And it bows onto and then down through Nick's bed and disappears. In the movie,
Yo, Nick is haunted.
As soon as the ghost disappears into the floor, whoever's hiding would make a run for it. In real life, there's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as people disappearing into the ground. So I'm expecting this thing to just get back up again. I couldn't understand that it was, what, it disappear into the bed? That's not possible.
Right.
Where is it? I heard the door open. I heard the bells. I heard the pot. I heard the footsteps. I saw the door open. I see the thing walk in. I watched it walk down the aisle.
It disappeared.
It's in the room. Where is it?
What is it?
And for hours, all night, I laid there absolutely petrified, expecting this thing to come back up and just look at me. That was my biggest fear, is whatever this thing was, I did not want it to look at me. So that was...
Don't look at me. Don't look at me, little puppet. Most people won't get the reference, but if you get the reference, man, you're lit.
I'm laying there, frozen. I can only move my eyes all night. Finally, I hear Nick's mom out in the living room making coffee. This was probably like 5, 6 in the morning. And it was like the first time that I'm like, okay, I'm safe now. Even if it's in the room, I'm safe to just go because I can hear someone out there.
Yeah, and then that's when I would go out there and be like, it has come to my attention that there's a 10-foot beast that lives underneath Nick's bed. I shall be packing my bags and heading back down the mountain. Feel free to contact me, but please wait until 48 hours until I have settled down to my place of residence before you are to contact me. I will leave my business cards on the table at your disposal, and may you guys have a great day. Butt cheeks and socks on if I had to, bruh. I'm not staying any longer than I have to. 1 night, 2 days, nah, bruh, we gotta go. Unless everybody agrees to stay awake and capture this Bigfoot ghost phantom thing that comes walking through the cabin. Nah, other than that, bro, I'm out. Friends and all, I'm sorry about what happened to your dad, but I'm getting out of here, bro.
I could hear her speaking. I knew it was her. And so I go right out there. And now, you got to understand that even though this was a horrible situation that I still can't really explain, I know that she has just lost her husband.
Yep.
And so the idea of approaching this subject, which effectively is going to turn into ghosts, right? I've never had a paranormal experience before this. I've never had a paranormal experience since, right?
Way to start.
I'm more or less a skeptic, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start talking about ghosts to the woman who's recently bereaved. It just felt really inappropriate. And so I was really struggling with how I wanted to communicate what happened. And so I went to the table, she got me a cup of coffee, and and we know each other well, she knows me well, and she definitely picked up that something was wrong, but didn't really ask anything yet. She was just kind of puzzling, kind of sizing me up a little bit. And the only thing I could think to do was to just ask, hey, did either of your 2 sons, Nick's older 2 brothers, did they stop by at any point last night? Did they stop by?
Yeah.
She's like, no. Mm-mm. And I'm sitting
She
there
said,
like, okay.
I was close. I was right, actually.
And I'm just like, I must have had a reaction that was obvious to her. She just goes, I heard my husband here last night too. And,
Your 10-foot husband? I don't know about that. A 10-foot husband. Can you imagine getting ready to say something they said before you do? What do you do then? Do you just be like, well, alrighty then? Why would a 10-foot beast? He said 10 foot. I don't think that was her husband.
That made it a lot worse.
I told you.
Because on the one hand, you have a situation where she is confirming something that part of me hopes is a bad dream.
Mm-mm. Not today, big fella.
She's now saying it's her husband. And so I intuitively assumed that she has somehow figured out what I'm stressed about that probably isn't real. And because she's grieving, she's created a story where her husband is now in the house.
Excuse me.
Looking over us. I really believed that she didn't hear anything. That she just somehow understood that I had this weird feeling and she'd turned it into oh, my husband's in the house. And I just couldn't ask any more questions at that point. I felt like I had set her up for this awkward exchange. I felt really bad that that was the discussion we were having.
You didn't do anything.
I also thought if that's true, I don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
I really was just dumbfounded on what to do in this situation.
I feel it because you want to know, but you don't want to keep scaring yourself at the same time.
And it gets worse. So Nick and Wolf eventually come out of the bedroom and they come to the dining room. And the same way I felt reserved talking to Nick's mom about what happened, I had the same feelings about Nick because it was his father. And I also just felt like that would be inappropriate. But Wolf, he's not a family member and he's my buddy. And I kind of pulled him aside and I kind of told him what was going on as best as I could. But I kept it kind of generic. I was like,
nah, bro, I'm keeping it 100.
I could have sworn I heard someone in the house last night. I could have sworn. And he's like, yeah, you're probably dreaming. That's what this.
That's not your friend.
And I was like, no, I wasn't, but I can't make sense of it. And I was like,
yo, if I tell you I seen a ghost and you say I'm dreaming, I'm punching you in your neck.
You just do me a favor. And at this point, Nick actually overheard the conversation, and I very much cut ties with what I was talking about. I was like, yeah, I just thought I heard something last night. It's just me freaking myself out. And I was like, can you guys tonight, when we get back from snowboarding, can I fall asleep ahead of you? That way, I'm asleep. You guys can just fall asleep out, and I'll sleep through the night. No big deal. And they're like, all right, yeah, weirdo, whatever. I'm just gonna go to bed really, really early because I didn't sleep the night before. So I'm thinking, I'll fall asleep right away. So we go out, we snowboard for the day. My mind is off of what happened, and frankly, I'm starting to convince myself that had to have been, sleep paralysis.
Oh yeah, sleep paralysis is real.
Before I was googling some stuff, and sleep paralysis.
I've had that.
A really intense dream. I was just like, there has to be something. This is too weird. It has to be something explainable. Turns out it wasn't. We get back from snowboarding, and I am immediately going to bed. Pretty much immediately.
Hold on, y'all.
6 o'clock.
I'm
going to bed. And I get in bed, and all I'm thinking about is what happened the night before, and I can't fall asleep. Eventually, Nick and Wolf, they come in the room, and they're trying their best to stay awake.
Nah, bro, you better stay awake.
It's getting later and later, and I can't fall asleep. And now I'm back to that, okay, if I fall asleep now, I get 6 hours of sleep. And they finally just said, hey, man, I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
No,
they both
please.
And I'm awake. And I was so...
I'm about to be like that girl. I didn't get no sleep because of y'all. So y'all not going to get no sleep because of me. I'm about to be banging pale. Boom. We all staying awake.
Upset with myself. You screwed yourself. Why didn't you just fall asleep, you dummy? I remember the only thing that I did that really made this real, looking back at it, is I put a knife, like a kitchen knife or something, in the springs above me. So I'm in the bottom bunk, basically right under the top bunk. I put a knife in there.
You're taking Ghostbusters to another level.
I'm in bed, and I'm constantly looking over at the digital clock. And it was probably around 3 a.m. It was late enough that it was okay, this is about the time that happened last night.
It's about to pop off.
And my heart just sunk when I heard those footsteps on the wraparound porch again. They sounded the same as they did the night before.
He's like, come back, Mr. Mrballen.
I was like, that has to be one of Nick's brothers. But the door opens, I hear the sleigh bells, I hear the frickin' pot fall on the ground. It was like deja vu. The exact same thing is happening. And these footsteps start walking through the house. And again, referencing how movies would portray this, the person who's me in the movie is like, okay, I'm gonna get this knife, and I'm going to position myself over here because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to protect myself.
Stab the
In
ghost.
real life, I'm like, this thing's going to be in my room, potentially. It happened last night. It's apparently happening again.
You need a gun, bro. 10 feet.
Please, for the
10
love
foot.
of God, don't bow into me the way it bowed into the floor the night before. Don't look at me. It will ruin my life. If some entity just engages me, just looks at me, that will ruin my life.
Yeah, bro.
This thing walks down.
I think what would be scarier is if you close your eyes and you waited for it to leave, you'd be like, okay, I don't hear anything. I think it's gone. And you open your eyes and it's staring right at your face. The control of my bowel movement is just not going to be on me anymore. I'm going to lose everything I've ever ate since like the first grade. Like my intestines, everything's just going to leave my body. My soul is going to come out, look down on me, leave me there, pretty much marinate the situation. I'm about to boo on myself times 10, bruh.
The hall, hear those footsteps coming down the hall, and just pretend for a second, forget the paranormal aspect. Pretend it's the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere, and a stranger is walking around your house. That alone is
scary.
horrifying.
Yep. I get the blicky on me. Like, what would you say?
Footsteps come right outside the door, and I'm looking at the knife that's right underneath the bed, and I'm petrified. I cannot move. I'm drenched in sweat just from the few seconds that it's taken this thing to go from the door to the front of my bedroom, because I know what's happening again. It's happening again. I'm not crazy. It's just happening again. What the F is this?
What the
And I'm petrified.
freedom is this?
I can't reach. I'm so worried about making any noise that would alert this thing that I'm here, that I can only move my eyes. And I remember even thinking that I shouldn't move my eyes too quickly because it might hear that. Like, this is a primal level of fear.
Yeah, I feel it, man. I feel you.
Walks into the room, goes right past the foot of my bed, and I'm, again, petrified. And it walks down, after making its facing movement, it walks down the
Left
aisle
face.
between me and Nick.
Show turn
And
tonight.
I remember what happened the night before, where it folded into Nick and disappeared, and I'm just thinking to myself, please don't turn and bow into me. Please, whatever happens, just don't do that.
I'm scared, bruh. He's about to do it.
Turns away from me and does the same thing it did the night before, folds onto Nick and disappears into the ground.
What is it?
But again, even though in the movies this would be the same thing happening, you know, night 2, it's the same routine. You'd be like, oh, the ghost is in the floor now. I can go alert.
He
the
can still
authorities,
pop back up.
because now it's safe. In real life, I'm like, where to go?
Yep.
I know this happened last night, but it still doesn't make any sense.
Check
It's
under the
in room.
bed.
It has to be. This is a real thing. It came in the room. It's somewhere. Is it under my bed? Where is it? All night. All night. I lay there. This is the second night that I've not slept.
Bruh, he's a trooper.
When
The
I
first
heard
one would have been
Nick's
done.
mom out in the other room, it was like such a relief, because I didn't give a crap at this point about being polite. I
Thank
wasn't
you.
gonna, like, try to, you know, distance myself from the conversation around ghosts. I was going to go out there and be like, what's wrong with this house? And so I hear her, and I go right out to the living room.
There you go, Mr. Ball. Put your foot down, buddy.
Ignore everything in as acute detail as I possibly can. And as I'm telling her this, her reaction didn't line up. Her reaction was not surprise, terror, confusion. It was
Red flags.
empathy. She felt bad for me. It was sympathy. You don't understand. Like, I'm listening, but you just don't understand what's happening.
I'm so confused. I'm scared.
Telling her all the, I mean, every detail I can possibly muster. And at the end of it, or towards the end, she just kind of stops me. She's like, John, I told you yesterday, and again, I heard it last night. That's just my husband.
It can't
I
be.
heard him last night too.
It can't.
Nothing to worry about. And I was like, no,
No, it's not.
no. That cannot be. That cannot be what it is. And she was like, I heard him open the door. I heard the pot fall. I heard him walk through the house. I'm assuming he went into Nick's room again with you guys. And I'm like, what is happening?
Bro, get out of there. Something ain't right.
So totally now,
I think she's losing it.
just beside myself. I remember I was crying, actually. Like, during this conversation, I'm just crying. Not even like tears of sadness.
It's like one of those
like
drizzles.
what's happening? Like, I needed my mom. Like, I felt so helpless. And no offense to Nick's mom, but I just felt like I was with a lunatic.
Mrballen cussed? What? Oh, he bleeped it out though. Dang, I would have lived to see that.
But like at the same time, she's recalling the exact same things as me. How do I put that together?
But it's not your husband. The thing is 10 foot
I
tall.
remember thinking I need to leave.
Thank you, man. There we go.
Get out of here.
Yes, you need to go now.
I thought about like, how am I going to make this happen?
What do you mean?
Nick's mom and Wolf and Nick, they're not leaving today.
Yeah, I walk,
It's pretty
bruh.
clear that Nick's mom liked the fact that she, heard her husband walking around the cabin. She's not trying to leave. There's one more night that we're here, and I would have to tell my parents to drive, my mom or my dad, to drive to New Hampshire.
There you
get
go.
me because I'm seeing a ghost.
Yeah, that's exactly what you
This
tell
is a
them.
trip that I loved. I looked forward to this trip.
And they should know you're being serious.
It wouldn't have made any sense, and they would have been like, "What's wrong with you?" And I honestly was not prepared to have those conversations with my mom and dad.
I would have. I've been
I was
open
not
book.
prepared to be like, "Let me tell you about the ghost I saw over the past 2 days." And so I was just kind of resigned and decided to stay. In retrospect,
In review.
I think I should have called my parents and been like, "That's what parents are
I
for.
can't. I
If
don't
they
get
come
it.
up here, it doesn't matter why. Come get me." But
Oh,
it
man.
was such a confusing moment that I had no blueprint for how to handle, so I just stayed. Nick and Wolf finally get up, and I remember I made that decision as I'm sitting there thinking about what's happening. Is Nick's mom is reassuring me, about her husband being in the house, and I make the decision that I'm going to stay. Nick and Wolf come out of the room, and they come over, and Wolf pretty much immediately looks at me to get a gauge on what happened, and you can see it all over my face. I've been crying, and I told them what happened. And Nick was always kind of a stoic, and he was just unaffected. Wolf, on the other hand, was more inclined to, at a minimum, believe something was happening.
They need
He
to
didn't
stay
know
up
if it
and
was
see
a
it.
ghost or not, but he certainly understood that something's going on. And the fact that Nick's mom, as I'm explaining to Nick and Wolf what's going on, she was like reinforcing my argument. Yeah, I heard him too. I heard the door open. Yeah, I was upstairs. I heard him walk through the house. And Wolf's like, "What's going on?" And Nick is like, he didn't want to hear it, kind of. It probably was uncomfortable. It's about his father, or ultimately talking about his father.
I don't think it is, man.
Before we went out snowboarding for the day, because Nick's mom would drive us and drop us off, she brought us to a local store, and we bought a coffee table because they've been looking to replace the one that was in their house. Basically, when you walk into the house, instead of turning down the hallway towards our room, if you just keep walking into the lofted area, at the foot of the stairs was a coffee table where they kept a landline phone because you're in the middle of nowhere and you got to have some way to call, and they put it right at the foot of the stairs in this little coffee table. But it had broken, or it was old, or whatever. I know they wanted a new one for a long time. We went out and got it. Me, Nick, and Wolf, we snowboard.
I felt like he's going to find something.
Offload the coffee table into the house. We put it at the foot of the stairs. And that night we go to bed. I was ruthless in trying to keep Wolf and Nick awake. I mean, I wasn't even trying to make jokes out of it. I was like straight up kicking the bunk.
There you go.
Kicking Wolf's bunk, like literally shaking Nick. I was doing everything in my power to keep them awake because I couldn't sleep. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
It was like the opposite of how excited you get before Christmas and you can't sleep. It was like the opposite of those feelings, but you still can't sleep.
I told you, me and him.
This is the
Same
worst
level.
night of my life.
Told you, if I ain't sleeping, you ain't
Also,
sleeping.
The nail in the coffin, if you will, is during the day that day, we found out that neither of Nick's two brothers were going to be making the trip. They weren't going to make it. So no one's going to be at the house. No one should be at the house except for us. And so that night,
Oh, here we go.
after all my attempts to keep Nick and
They
Wolf
fell
awake,
asleep.
They fall asleep. Everyone's asleep. The house is pitch black. It's silent. And around
2 to 3 a.m. Yep.
Goosebumps just thinking about it. I hear those footsteps on the wraparound porch. The door opens and I hear the sleigh bells ringing on the door. A pot falls on the ground. Steps walk into the house. And this is the third time.
It's about to look at him this time. Watch.
So in a way, this was the first time that I was expecting something to happen. For it to walk down the hall, to come in the room, to come next to me, fold into Nick, and then that's it. This was the first time I had a little bit of, call it security, that something was going to happen, and I understood what was going to happen. I didn't understand it, but I expected something to happen.
Get a camera.
This was not the case.
Wait a minute.
It walked into the house. Everything was the same. It walked into the house, but instead of going down the hallway towards our room, it kept walking into the lofted area. And the lofted area, from where I was laying,
What?
my foot's at the door, my head's back here. The wall straight, if I like sat up in bed and looked straight, the wall right there led into the area where this thing was. So I'm basically, if there wasn't a wall, I'd be looking dead at this thing. And I'm waiting for it to walk through the wall.
Okay, I was about to say.
As crazy as that sounds, I'm just
Yeah.
anticipating something coming through the wall.
I thought it was going to happen too, to be honest.
After a long pause of it being in that lofted area, I hear it go up the steps. Listening to the creak of the steps as it goes up the steps,
He's about to scare the mom.
it makes my skin crawl.
And then she's going to be like, that's not my husband.
It's making me like emotional thinking about how terrifying that was. Walks up the stairs, and now it's above me.
It's going to come down.
The past 2 nights,
Yeah, this is scary.
this thing has sunk into the ground 2 nights in a row and disappeared.
So it's going to sink into him.
Now my fear is it's going to literally come through the ceiling, through the
Oh my God.
me. The sound stopped when it was upstairs. Got upstairs.
Just
that's
close
when
your
Nick
eyes.
slept. She was upstairs. So I laid in bed, petrified once again. I got my stupid knife sitting in the underside of the bed above me. And hours and hours of waiting for my literal worst nightmare to come true as some entity comes through the ceiling and goes into me. Or even just if it was like onto Nick, if it came through the ceiling and if out of my peripheries I'm watching like this beast come through the ceiling and float down and into Nick. These thoughts
This
in my head
beast.
didn't make sense. They were terrifying, but they were happening. I laid in bed and I couldn't fall asleep. I was now coming up on 3 days without sleep. So at some point that night, I did fall asleep, probably just out of sheer exhaustion. At some point in the morning, early morning, now probably like 5 in the morning, I wake up again and I can hear Nick's mom. It didn't sound like she was making coffee. It sounded like something was wrong. I couldn't place it, but it just sounded like she was acting emotional somehow.
How much you want to bet it wasn't him?
But now it's like it's the morning, it's my last day, I'm leaving today, I'm up, I'm out. And as soon as I walk out of the hallway and I look to the left into the dining room where I expect to see Nick's mom, and she's not there. And she's actually over at the foot of the stairs in the lofted kind of living room area next to this new coffee table we had just put in. And she's standing over this coffee table at the foot of the stairs where the entity had been.
I'm waiting for the plot twist.
One deviation from the other 2 nights. And she's crying. Come here. She points to the coffee table. And she's down on her knees looking at the table. And now I can tell she's probably crying tears of joy. Because scratched into the coffee table were the words, I love you. I was like, I'm done. That ended my
Oh! Yo, Mr. Ballen's face, he said, I'm done. He said, I'm done.
Because scratched into the coffee table were the words, I love you. I was like, I'm done. That ended my friendships with certainly Nick.
He said, I love you. I'm done. And you can tell you can see in his face that he was serious. Look how serious Mr. Ballen was. Look.
Because scratched into the coffee table were the words, I
Look at his face.
I was like, I'm done. That ended my friendship with certainly Nick. Wolf to a lesser degree, but I stopped snowboarding. I didn't go back to that cabin, even though I know Wolf did the next year. The theories about what happened. Nick's mom, it's possible she could have created a narrative about her husband, and then she could have just as easily scratched that into the table.
Yeah, that's true.
The I love you. That could have been her. I mean, it's also possible that she had sleep paralysis and I had sleep paralysis.
I don't know, highly doubt it though. At the same time,
we synchronized and had the same vision, and she scratched on the table. Or, to be honest, what I believe, that was a ghost, and that it interacted with the physical world, and it did walk around the house. It did carve "I love you" into that table.
it like Nick though, so it might be the dad.
You know, that's the only time in my entire life that I've had anything happen like that. I don't have any other paranormal stories before or after. That's it.
People playing music in the background.
I continue to do long versions of my ghost stories and scary stories that I find that I've been posting on TikTok. I'm going to do long versions of those on this YouTube channel. That's going to be the new direction for this channel. If you have a great ghost story, please DM me on Instagram. My handle is John B. Allen 416. JOHNBALLEN 416. Send me your story on Instagram. You can also hit me up on TikTok. That's Mrballen. And that's gonna do it, guys.
Yo, Slink BMX, thank you so much for this video, man. I haven't laughed like that in a minute. That was freaking funny, dude. He looked down, he said, I'm done. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching this video. This video is by Mrballen, so if you guys haven't already, be sure you swoop down to that description box, hit that link, and go follow Mrballen and watch the video in its entirety without me pausing and stopping through the whole thing. Giveaway is right around the corner. Make sure you guys are entering this, man. It's free stuff, man. I'm trying to do something for you guys for helping me out and supporting me all this time, and give back to you for Christmas. But yeah, man, that was scary, bro. I was kind of skeptic because it was a 10-foot tall ghost. Like, I have never seen a 10-foot tall anything. I thought it was like a Yeti or some type of creature or something like that. But then again, he had the Insidious picture, so maybe it was like something like that degree. But nah, bro, I don't know. I thought the mom was kind of weird too. I just didn't want to say she was weird because she just lost her husband, because she could have been grieving. But at the same time, she's like, oh yeah, it's him. And she's just like chill about it. Like, okay, that doesn't bother you. Like, yeah, that was a crazy. But now I get to see what he had to experience. I'm glad I didn't have to experience anything like that. I think I said the worst thing I experienced when I seen a door open by itself, but that was about it. Glad I didn't see anything. I don't want to see anything. If you pass and I knew you, please don't come and see me, man. I love you. You know what I'm saying? We shared memories, but please do not come back and show yourself. Do not touch anything. I don't want to see you. Not to be mean, but don't do it, man. Like, that's just like me waking up and seeing Mountain Dew. Scary stuff. Happy holidays. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.